As my previous lives, I had an injury recently. And I was on crutches and stuff, and I've just been recovering. So it's been a time. Hello to all my supporters, and hello to anybody that's newly come across my channel. So today I'm doing like a book fest. I'm just going through some books that I've read previously in celebration to 2025. Looking forward to reading more books in the new year in 2026. So some of these books I've probably done reviews already. If you, especially in my shorts, if you go back to some of my videos, if you go back and look at some of my shorts, you'll see some reviews of some books that I've read before. Happy holidays to everybody. So the first book that got the pronunciation wrong, a great book. This is such a great book. Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe. Sorry for any mispronunciation. I'm actually not Nigerian, and so I understand that sometimes there's some nuances in the way names are pronounced, so I may have got it wrong. I do apologize in advance. But yeah, Things Fall Apart, one of my all-time favorite books, like one of my all-time favorites, and it's a classic as well. I'm in the UK, and previously this book was studied in schools, in secondary schools. I don't believe it's been studied in schools any recently, but it's such a wonderful book. Things Fall Apart. So this is a world-renowned author, Chinua Achebe. Um, I might read a section about the author, yeah, just as a like introduction. Chinua Achebe was born in Nigeria in 1930. He was raised in the large village of Ojidi, one of the first centers of Anglican missionary work in eastern Nigeria, and is a graduate of University College Ibadan. His early career in radio ended abruptly in 1966 when he left his post as Director of External Broadcasting in Nigeria during the national upheaval that led to the Biafran War. Achebe joined the Biafran Ministry of Information and represented Biafra on various diplomatic and fundraising missions. He was appointed Senior Research Fellow at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka and began lecturing widely abroad. For over 15 years, he was the Charles P. Stevenson Professor of Languages and Literature at Bard College. He is now the David and Mariana Fisher University Professor and Professor of Africana Studies at Brown University. Achebe has received numerous honors from around the world, including the Honorary Fellowship of the American Academy of Arts and Letters, as well as honorary doctorates from more than 30 colleges and universities. He is also the recipient of Nigeria's highest award for intellectual achievement, the Nigerian National Merit Award. In 2007, he won the Man Booker International Prize for Fiction. He is such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful author. This is Things Fall Apart. It's now sold well over 10 million copies worldwide and has been translated into more than 50 languages. So that's Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. I love this book, honestly, and it's got so many different topics overlapping within the story, within the story, within the story. It's just, you know, it's got themes of masculinity, tradition, culture, relationship, polygamy, modernization, colonization. You know, it's got so many, you know, gentrification somewhat, but it's got so many different themes. Hi, sorry about that. Sorry about that. So this next book that I'm going to review is called The Boy Who Loved Rain, and it's by Gerard Kelly. It's quite a deep novel, and I just want to say, if you're here and you're a minor, if you're here and you're under 18, probably get some supervision on the books that I'm recommending. Some of them do have adult themes, so it would be wise of you to seek some supervision if you're going to look up any of the books. This book does have adult themes, yeah, so trigger warning, this book does have adult themes, and if you are under 18, I would advise supervision if you look up any of these books, um, because they are for adults. Anyway, this book is The Boy Who Loved Rain by Gerard Kelly, and this is such a wonderful book. It's quite intense. I'm just going to read from chapter 24 on page 183. I'm just going to read a page just to give you an idea of what the book is like. I'm not going to do any spoilers, so I'm not going to get deep into the books. I'm just going to recommend them. So to start off with, in chapter 24, and just to let you know, this book is called The Boy Who Loved Rain by Gerard Kelly. Just to give you a trigger warning, it does have adult themes. So if you are under 18, or in regards to the triggers, try and get supervision if you're going to look up the book. So chapter 24 on page 183, it starts off with a quote. I don't just wish you rain, beloved, I wish you the beauty of storms. And that's John Jedez, A Familiar Rain. Sorry, my partner's on the phone shouting his head off. Um 1 minute. Adak! Adak! Sorry. 1 minute, guys. Like, he's just shouting his head off on the phone. I'm going to read one page from the book. 1 minute, sorry. Okay, I'm just going to read one page. Discouraged. This is page 183, chapter 24. Discouraged, unsettled, confused, Fiona drove back to Portvie. She couldn't yet find the courage to face Miriam, was certain Colin wouldn't surface before lunch. She parked and went to the Café du Port, and was surprised to find Thierry there so early, after last night's heroics. You look as tired as I feel, he said as she came in. How is he? Sleeping, I think. No permanent damage done. She didn't want to say that she had not been to bed. Could he guess from her crumpled appearance? To him, no. But what about you? How are you? He was already busy with her coffee. No need to ask. Tired, she smiled weakly, afraid, confused. The coffee arrived on the counter, Thierry sliding it across to her. She freed 2 sugar lumps from their neat individual wrappings, dropped them in, stirred absently. Do you believe in God, Thierry? She asked. He raised his eyebrows. The God of my childhood? Of the church? No, I'm not sure that I do. But I don't think that makes me altogether an unbeliever. He paused, thoughtful, looked up suddenly. Can you wait here a moment? He said. She nodded yes, confused. He lifted the hatch that released him from behind the counter and was out of the door. He came back after less than 5 minutes with a book, heavy, colourful, turned it towards her on the countertop. And that's The Boy Who Loved Rain. I love that book. I love that book so much. There's a lot to learn. So my next book is Blink. My next book is Blink, and this is by Malcolm Gladwell. The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. Hmm. This was the number one international bestseller ages ago. Malcolm Gladwell, he wrote quite a few books. I would say the best of his books were uh ooh, I think, was it called David and Goliath? Um, there was a book. What was it? What was his really good? Okay, he wrote The Tipping Point. Um, I think, was it David and Goliath? There was a really good book that he wrote. Do any of you remember the name of it? Malcolm Gladwell. This book is called Blink, right? Malcolm Gladwell, but he wrote some other really good books. Really good books. Um, I would say, this shows the power of media, the power of advertising, um, just how the mind processes things. It's quite a psychological book in regards to the way we process people, information, first impressions. It's very good, very interesting. Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. That's really good. This is one of my all-time favorites. One of my all-time favorite books. It was a gift. It was a gift, and it's called Bad Girls of the Bible. Bad Girls of the Bible. I love this book, and it's by Liz Curtis Higgs. Um, so this book is called Bad Girls of the Bible and What We Can Learn from Them. And what it does, it studies bad girls in the Bible and what we can learn from them. You know, some people may think that life is black and white, and this is a bad character, this is a good character, but actually, there's good and bad in everybody, and if anything, there's lessons that you can learn from everybody. Ultimately, we see all the time in life, there's good people that do bad things, and there can be bad people that can do good things, and so it's a whole mixed bag of ethics. The people that are covered in this book were Rahab, obviously, um, Queen Vashti, um, Delilah. Delilah got in there. Delilah, um, I've said Rahab already. It just goes through, I think, Lot's wife, uh, Michael, King David's wife. Um, it goes through quite a few. Does it go through Pontius Pilate's wife? Does it go through Potiphar's wife? You know something? It's just a really good book. Lessons we can all learn from a sinful woman. Um, Jezebel's in there, and the woman at the well, and Sapphira. So, bad girls of the Bible, lessons that can be learnt from their lives and what they've done, by Liz Curtis Higgs. That's a really good book. I wouldn't say feminist book, but it's quite an empowering book. Looking at people in the Bible that are always labelled as bad, and what can be learnt from their lives and their decisions. This book is The Goldfinch. The Goldfinch. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Yeah, trigger warning for this book as well. Huge trigger warning. If you're under 18, be supervised looking up these books. This is a long read. Fascinating, triggering, but definitely recommended. So that's The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. It was a number one international bestseller. Very triggering, I would say. So be guided. Be guided when you go through this. And it talks about the author here. Donna Tartt was born in Greenwood, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Bennington College Her novels, The Secret History and The Little Friend, have been translated into 30 languages. So that's The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Great book. Adult book. The Help. I know the movie was out. Lots of people went out to watch it in the movies. I read the book. I didn't see the movie. The Help by Kathryn Stockett. A very good read. Again, it can be triggering. If you are under 18, be supervised if you look up this book. Definitely triggering, but a fascinating read. One of my favorite books. Loved it. No spoilers in my reviews. No spoilers. What else we got here? John Grisham. I love me some John Grisham. I love me some John Grisham. I love me some John Grisham. I love John Grisham books. Me and my friend, I'll tell you what me and my friend done. We tracked down all his books in our local library years and years ago. We tracked down all his books in our local library, and I think altogether we tracked down maybe 30 books. But the problem is our library tickets could only take out maybe 10 books. So between the two of us, we just raided the library of all his books, and we were like exchanging it between ourselves. We would renew it, we'd return it, take it back out again, like a whole summer of going through all his books. And there were loads, maybe 30 or so, but a couple of them I bought just so I would own them. But yeah, most of them I read through using the library. This one is The Judge's List. The Judge's List. I love John Grisham. What I'll do, I'll read one page out of the book. I love John Grisham. If there's anybody here that's into law, even if you're not into law and you enjoy reading, or you might not even enjoy reading and maybe you want to get into reading, I would recommend John Grisham. All his books, he's got loads. This is The Judge's List. I'm going to read page 198. His disputes dealt with broker contracts and defaulted loans. To her knowledge, he had no experience with personal injuries. I guess things are tied up in discovery, he said, trying to ease into the heart of the matter. Looks like it. My lawyer says I may have to give a deposition. I'm sure you've been there. Gunther snorted in disgust and said, "Oh yeah, a lot of fun." Staring across the table at 5 lawyers, all scheming to pounce on every word, every syllable, salivating as they dream of getting more of your money. Why can't your lawyer get the case settled? It should have been over months ago. It's complicated, sure, there's a big pile of money, but that only attracts more vultures, more hungry lawyers. I get that, but what would you settle for, Lacey? What's your figure? I don't know. We're not there yet. You're entitled to millions, sis. Those bastards deliberately set you up and crashed into your car. Please, I know all this, Gunther, and we're not going over it again. Okay, sorry, but I just worry about you. I'm not sure you have the right lawyer. As I've said before, Gunther, I can take care of myself and my lawyer. You don't need to waste your time worrying about it. I know, sorry. I'm your big brother and I can't help it. Their plates arrived and both seemed to welcome the interruption. They began eating and things went quiet. He was obviously preoccupied with ideas, but couldn't manage to work them into the conversation. Her biggest fear was that he would need an infusion of cash at the same time she settled her lawsuit. He would never ask for money outright as a gift, but would use the ploy of an urgent loan. I love John Grisham. I love John Grisham. I absolutely love John Grisham. You know, I've pretty much read all his books. I think he's got over 30 books. I've read all of them. That's recommended. I've already already reviewed this book. This is Going to Hurt by Adam K. I've already reviewed this in one of my like 10-minute videos. Check out my videos. But yeah, powerful book, excellent book. Very, very, we call it gallows humor. Depending what country you're from, you might not understand that term. But yeah, we call it gallows humor. Basically, tragic humor, but very eye-opening and humorous, but sad. Yeah. This is Going to Hurt, Adam K. I've already done a review on my other videos, but great book. Great, great book. Ooh. The Miniaturist. This book, I would say, is along the lines of the Goldfinch. So everything that I spoke about when I just reviewed the Goldfinch, I would apply here. This book is triggering, can be triggering, has adult themes. So if you are under 18, please be supervised. But yeah, trigger warning. But The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. Awesome book. Quite a big read. I'll read one page. No spoilers. No spoilers. No spoilers. Okay, so this is from page 170, and it's The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. Page 170, The Miniaturist. Cornelia, was there someone Marin once loved? Loved? That's what I said. Cornelia's fingers tighten on the plate. Madame says love is best a phantom than reality, better in the chase than court. The flames of the fire are note, love note, hand on Nella's heart. Do you swear? Do you swear? Hand on Nella's heart. Do you swear? Do you swear not to speak of this to a soul? I swear. Then I'll tell you now, the maid says, lowering her voice. Agnes Meermans has always been a cat to hide her claws. All those airs are racist, but look closer, madame. Look at the worry in the middle of her eye. She can't ever hide her feelings about Marin because Marin stole her husband's heart. What? Cornelia stands up. I can't tell you all this without having something to keep my hands busy. I'll make some ole cooking. No spoilers, but The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton explores adult themes, can be triggering, be supervised if you're under 18, but a knockout of a read. A knockout of a read. Oh yeah, I've got a book about running. I used to run a lot. And I just needed some motivation. It's a very inspiring book, very informative. I'll read a page of it, but this is running basically. I used to run a lot. I mean, I've recently started jogging. I don't swim anymore. I've recently started jogging. I'm trying to build a momentum to get into a habit. I've been going 3 times a week for the past month after my injury to help build up my, just to help build up my muscles, my leg muscles. Okay, so I'm going to read page 54. This is Running by Owen Barder. 2 months, the amount of running gradually increases and the walking reduces, so that by week 16, you can do 2 30-minute runs. It is a common mistake to try to run too fast. Remember the talk test. You should be able to maintain a conversation easily and complete sentences on all these runs. If you are too out of breath to speak easily, you are running too fast. Once you have completed the beginner's training program, you okay. Sorry about that. This one depends. So this is running, Get Fit Running by Owen Barder. Um, I stopped for years. I started swimming. I stopped. Now I'm trying to get back into jogging, and this is just good motivation to read. This is page 54. The building blocks of training: hill running and leg strength. The speed you run depends on two things: the length of your stride and your leg turnover, i.e., the number of strides you take per minute. This is blindingly obvious if you think about it, but it has an important implication. If you increase your stride length, you will run faster. To do this, you need to improve your flexibility, but also your leg strength so that you push off with greater power for each step. For longer distance running, leg strength is also a key factor in developing your stamina. Hill workouts strengthen your hamstrings, calves, and buttocks, but especially the thigh muscles, which don't get as much of a workout from running on the flat. Marathon runners, in particular, need strong quads to sustain their effort over the full distance. Good leg strength is also a good way to avoid injury. Noted. Before you start intense speed training, you should have a base of leg strength, which gives you the explosive power you need for speed. So, hill training is valuable for runners of any distance, and especially for longer distance runners. Yeah, I hear it. I hear it. I hear it. Yeah, great book, especially if you want information on getting fit or if you want information on running before you actually start. Um, and everyone's different, but I find it helpful to have, information before I embark on a project, whether it be a hobby or, when I started swimming, I done a whole load of research. I bought my kit and then I started swimming, going aqua aerobics. Then I dropped out of that phase. Now trying to get back into running, so I'm just jogging somewhat. But I find that reading that type of information um, helps to motivate me and helps to make informed choices in regards to my exercise. So that's a really good book. Um, hmm, hmm. Yeah, so don't want to get political. Don't want to get political, but yeah, Barack Obama, The Audacity of Hope. Me and all my friends bought it, read it when he was, whole thing. Michelle Obama, a biography by Liza Mundy. Yeah, so obviously when it was all popping off, me and my friends, we all got their books. We all, we all wanted to find out who they were. We wanted more than what you could see online. Um, yeah, I don't want to get political. Um, 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 Another John Grisham book, The Guardians. John Grisham, one of the absolute best authors ever. Yeah, I'm gonna give all these books away because I read them and they're just in storage here when I can, give them away and let somebody enjoy it. But yeah. So that's John Grisham, The Guardians. I love all his books. I believe I've read all of them. Um, The Paperboy. This is a true story. It's a true story. I don't want to give this book away. Mm. The Paperboy by Tony. Macaulay. Macaulay. Sorry for the mispronunciation. It's set in Belfast in the 70s. I've been to Ireland, Belfast. I've been there quite a few times over the years. There's been a lot of changes. Um, this is a great book. I'll read a page from this book actually. Right, so I'm going to read chapter 12, page 163, and that's The Paperboy by Tony Macaulay, and I'm reading page 163. A final verbal warning. I got complacent, so I did. Now that my paper bag was black with experience, I began to cut corners and take risks. I was heading for a fall as surely as the day I had slipped on Petra's poop, fallen against Mrs. Grant's rosebush, and torn my new tartan turnips out of John Fraser's. The same day I had run home crying and been spotted, of course, by Big Jaunty, who told all the other paper boys the next day when they had all laughed until they cried. I had developed the sort of paperboy swagger that comes with the confidence of having delivered 10,000 papers with a completely clean disciplinary record. Among swaggers, the paperboy swagger was unique. It was more uncommon than a hard man swagger, more routine than a marching season swagger, and less intimidating than a tartan gang swagger. It was a swagger very much in its own right, and involved walking purposefully while at the same time confidently swinging a heavy bag over one. Sorry about that. Anyway, so the next book, The Wimpy Kid, Diary of the Wimpy Kid. Um, Diary of the Wimpy Kid is so entertaining. It's so funny. Um, I think I read the whole set. This was absolutely years ago. Diary of the Wimpy Kid. There's a whole set to those books. Emotional Intelligence. Working with Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. I believe I've done a review on this on one of my like older videos. But yeah, Intelligence. Working with Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. This is a really good, really, really good book. Really, really, really good book. It talks about the art of listening. It talks about when empathy lacks integrity, which is quite interesting. When empathy lacks integrity, um, burnout, blame the victim, how to lower performance. I think a lot of these are business related. However, you can transfer, the lessons into, you know, your personal interactions as well as, your work related interactions. Psychological presence, getting better and better, the stream of feeling, living by the inner rudder, building bonds, um, socializing shapes the brain. I mean, yeah, so this is more business centered, but I found it quite helpful. Obviously, nothing stays the same, things change all the time. Working with emotional intelligence by Daniel Goleman. In some topics, you may say it's a bit dated. However, I would say there's lessons that can carry over, years later. And emotional intelligence is very, very, yeah, emotional intelligence. I think sometimes, yeah, you want to be genuine. You don't want your interactions to be pre-planned. However, especially in this day of social media, there are lessons to be learned in how to remain professional and how to interact with people you may not physically come into contact with in a in a beneficial manner. Her Mother's Secret by Kathryn King. Her Mother's Secret by Kathryn King. This is one of those romance books. I never really used to. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So this is Her Mother's Secret by Kathryn King. Will the shadows of the past destroy her dreams of the future? Quite a corny book, but very light reading, very entertaining. Just easy reading. Maybe you're going on holiday, you're going to be on a train, you're going to be on a plane for an hour. You don't want to necessarily be on a phone. It's just, a nice, easy reading book. This is the book that I was talking about earlier by Malcolm Gladwell, David and Goliath. This is a wonderful book. This is a wonderful book. Wonderful. Absolutely. Absolutely wonderful book. And if you're my supporter, you'll know that I actually took my previous employer to tribunal and I wasn't able to afford a lawyer. So I represented myself. And previous learning, such as reading books like these, really came in handy and continue to do so. Malcolm Gladwell, this for me is definitely his best book, David and Goliath. I'll read a page out of it. I'll read from page. Um, yeah, there's some really, really, really some good education in this. Some good education in this. Sometimes you can meet people that are clearly very intelligent, but they're not very likable. And then you can meet people that are of average intelligence, but they have good charisma, they know how to get on with people, lots of emotional intelligence, and they just seem to get a lot further in life because they're smarter with their interactions. Um, yeah, it does address those types of um, let me read from page. I love this book. Um, I love this book. Um, okay, so I'm going to read from page 47. I wanted to have more freedom. I wanted to aspire to have different things. Money was a tool that I could use for my aspiration and my desires and my drive, he said. Nobody taught me like that. I learned it. It was kind of like trial and error. I liked the juice of it. I got some self esteem from it. I felt more control over my life. He was sitting in his home office as he said that, a room easily the size of most people's houses. And then he finally came to the point. He had children that he loved very dearly. Like any parent, he wanted to provide for them, to give them more than he had. But he had created a giant contradiction, and he knew it. He was successful because he had learned the long and hard way about the value of money and the meaning of work and the joy and fulfillment that came from making your own way in the world. But because of his success, it would be difficult for his children to learn those same lessons. Mm. Children of multimillionaires in Hollywood do not rake the leaves of their neighbors in Beverly Hills. Their fathers do not wave the electricity bill angrily at them if they leave the lights on. They do not sit in a basketball arena behind a pillar and wonder what it would be like to sit courtside. They live courtside. My own instinct is that it's much harder than anybody believes to bring up kids in a wealthy environment, he said. People are ruined by challenged economic lives, but they're ruined by wealth as well because they lose their ambition and they lose their pride and they lose their sense of self worth. It's difficult at both ends of the spectrum. Agreed. It's difficult at both ends of the spectrum. There's some place in the middle which probably works best of all. There are few things that inspire less sympathy then a multimillionaire crying the blues for his children, of course. Yeah, David and Goliath, one of the best books I've ever read by Malcolm Gladwell. And as I stated previously, he's written other books, but this, for me, is his absolute best. Highly recommended for people of all ages. Um, you know what? This is. I'm just going down memory lane doing this, which is nice. Okay, so Barack Obama years ago when it was all happening, I got three for the price of two at Waterstones. Other good bookshops are available. Um, Dreams from My Father, his remarkable life story in his own words. So I don't want to get political, but that was Barack Obama. Barack Obama, previous president of the United States. I believe he was the 144th president of the United States of America. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, this book, Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. I don't think I've ever said C.S. Lewis is one of the greatest authors ever. And I get very nervous when we start hearing about celebrities' personal lives. I just don't want to know. I just don't want to know because he is one of my all time favorite authors. Honestly, mere Christian. I dare you, whether you're religious or not, whether you're a person of faith or not. I believe he started off being an atheist before he converted to Christianity. Um, I believe he was an atheist. So his writings are very, I would say, very inclusive, and I, I would recommend for anyone to read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. And this is C.S. Lewis of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, by the way. But yeah, I love this book. I love this book. Um, so I'll read from page 119. I'll read from page 119. And this is Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. This chapter is called Faith. I must talk in this chapter about what the Christians call faith. Roughly speaking, the word faith seems to be used by Christians in two senses or on two levels, and I will take them in turn. In the first sense, it means simply belief, accepting or regarding as true the doctrines of Christianity. That is fairly simple. But what does puzzle people, at least it used to puzzle me, is the fact that Christians regard faith in this sense as virtue. I used to ask how on earth it can be a virtue. What is there moral or immoral about believing or not believing a set of statements? Obviously, I used to say a sane man accepts or rejects any statement, not because he wants to or does not want to, but because the evidence seems to him good or bad. If he were mistaken about the goodness or badness of the evidence, that would not mean he was a bad man, but only that he was not very clever. And if he thought the evidence bad but tried to force himself to believe in spite of it, that would be merely stupid. Well, I think I still take that view, but what I did not see then, and a good many people do not see still, was this. I was assuming that if the human mind once accepts a thing as true, it will automatically go on regarding it as true until some real reason for reconsidering it turns up. In fact, I was assuming that the human mind is completely ruled by reason, but that is not so. For example, My reason is perfectly convinced by good evidence that anesthetics do not smother me and that properly trained surgeons do not start operating until I am unconscious. But that does not alter the fact that when they have me down on the table and clap their horrible mask over my face, a mere childish panic begins inside me. I start thinking I am going to choke, and I am afraid they will start cutting me up before I am properly under. In other words, I lose my faith in anesthetics. It is not reason that is taking away my faith. On the contrary, my faith is based on reason. It is my imagination and emotions. The battle is between faith and reason on one side, and emotion and imagination on the other. Hmm. When you think of it, you will see lots of instances of this. A man knows on perfectly good evidence that a pretty girl of his acquaintance is a liar and cannot keep a secret and ought not to be trusted. But when he finds himself with her, his mind loses its faith in that bit of knowledge and he starts thinking, perhaps she'll be different this time, and once more makes a fool of himself and tells her something he ought not to have told her. His senses and emotions have destroyed his faith in what he really knows to be true. Or take a boy learning to swim. His reason knows perfectly well that an unsupported human body will not necessarily sink in water. He has seen dozens of people float and swim. But the whole question is whether he will be able to go on and believe in this when the instructor takes away his hand and leaves him unsupported in the water, or whether he will suddenly cease to believe it and get in a fright and go down. The same thing happens about Christianity. I am not asking anyone to accept Christianity if his best reasoning tells him that the weight of the evidence is against it. That is not the point at which faith comes in. But supposing a man's reason once decides that the weight of the evidence is for it, I can tell that man what is going to happen to him in the next few weeks. There will come a moment when there is bad news, or he's in trouble, or living among a lot of other people who do not believe it. And all at once, his emotions will rise up and carry out a sort of blitz on his belief. Or else there will come a moment when he wants a woman, or wants to tell a lie, or feels very pleased with himself, or sees a chance of making a little money in some way that is not perfectly fair. Some moments, in fact, at which it would be very convenient if Christianity were not true. And once again, his wishes and desires will carry out a blitz. I am not talking of moments at which any real new reasons against Christianity turn up. Those have to be faced, and that is a different matter. I am talking about moments when a mere mood rises up against it. C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis, he's one of the best authors I've ever read, honestly. Hmm. C.S. Lewis. Hmm. Um, yeah. I'm probably going to review two more. I love C.S. Lewis. I'll probably review two more books. I've got loads of books. And to be honest, going through these is making me want to read some of the books again before I give them away, which defeats the whole object because I need to give them away. I mean, they're just sat here and, you know, I want someone else to enjoy them. Uh, the Diary of the Wimpy Kid, buy one get one half price. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Ugly Truth. You know, I bought a whole set of these because I was teaching in Sunday school and all the kids were reading it. Like there's a whole hoo ha. So I thought, right, let me go through these books. Let me read all these books so I know how to relate to these children and I can understand, you know, you know, I just wanted to get in the mind of the children that I was um, teaching in Sunday school. So I read the whole set and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed. Yeah. Diary of the Wimpy Kid, The Ugly Truth. Every book in the series is wonderful. Very funny. Um okay. This book is a book that my friend bought for me just before I went to nursing school because I was struggling with maths. Numeracy skills test with practice questions. Achieving QTS. Mark Patmore. To get to nursing, I had to take loads of maths tests. I had to take lots of maths and English tests. English tests were fine, the maths tests were my problem. And my friend bought this for me and helped me study because I think I had maybe one final opportunity to take the maths test. Otherwise, I wouldn't get into nursing. Yeah, she bought this for me, and I studied. I studied it yet again, and I passed. And yeah, um, Loving God, Charles Colson, one of my favorite books. I read it every so often. Um, Depending on where I'm at in my journey. I'm not in a good place in my journey at the moment. But Loving God by Charles Colson. Yeah, yeah, really good book. I feel like a hypocrite reviewing this because I'm not in a good place in my Christian journey, but this is a great book. Loving God by Charles Colson. I've got lots of reading to do actually. Look at my arms. Oh gosh. I've started jogging again. I've started jogging, so hopefully. Oh my gosh, it's massive. I probably need to do exercise to tone up. Oh my gosh. I guess jogging should help, shouldn't it? Jogging should help. With my bingo wings. Jogging should help with my bingo wings. Um, Swimming was really good for my arms. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Sule, John Grisham, the finest. John Grisham, Sule. I'll read the page, but I love John Grisham, as I've said quite a few times already. I believe I've read all his books. Yeah, John Grisham is the author of 36 novels, one work of non-fiction, a collection of stories, and 7 novels for young readers. John Grisham. I'll read the page. I love John Grisham. I love his books. I love his books. I think I've read about 30 of his books. He's got 36. Or maybe 25. Maybe I've read 25 of his books. I feel like I've read 30, but John Grisham. I'm not going to be able to get through all the books because I've got work tomorrow, guys. The work, it's good being like off for Christmas, but a new year. I would say the best thing to do, if possible, is to be off for the whole holidays, like just to be completely off. because when you go back to work in between, it's just horrible, man. And also, like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to wake up early. You know, you've been having all these late nights and stuff, and you know, if you've been drinking and stuff as well, you just, I don't know. But tomorrow I've got work, so I actually wanted to do this live earlier, but I'll do a couple more books, but I'm gonna have to go because can you imagine I'm going back to work tomorrow in the midst of all this seasonal celebrations? Ah, some of these books I've reviewed already. Um, Freakonomics. I wasn't impressed by this book. I feel like they're trying to jump on the Malcolm Gladwell bandwagon. I may be wrong. I wasn't really feeling this book. I wasn't feeling it. Stephen D. Levitt and Stephen J. Dubner, Freakonomics. My brother's an actorist, and I think he read this book, and he wasn't a fan either. And he challenged a lot of the information here, so he's probably influenced me to turn me off that book. But yeah, Freakonomics. I wouldn't really recommend it to, if I'm honest with you. Um, Jonathan Edwards, A Time to Jump. This is very inspirational. Jonathan Edwards, A Time to Jump. This is very inspirational. Very inspirational. Um, it's amazing, like how out of date a book can become. Um, The Girl's Guide to Being a Boss by Caitlin Friedman and Kimberly Yorio. This is about coping as a new manager, and yeah, I don't know what I was reading so much about. Yeah, so this book is it's quite dated, but there's some things are ongoing, aren't they? But it offers advice on avoiding common office politics, such as alienating your staff, being taken advantage of, and dealing with fraught working relationships. Mm, yeah. Um, China Road. China Road, One Man's Journey into the Heart of Modern China. And this is by Rob Gifford. I don't want to be political, but I recommend this book. Very eye opening. Very good book. Very inspiring. Um, I'm going to leave it there. I've got so many books. Um, I've got so many books. Um, yeah, I've got books by Kate Hudson Taylor. He's one of my role models, if I'm honest with you, in regards to his life of commitment and endurance to something bigger than himself and his selfless work. Yeah, Hudson Taylor is one of my role models. And yeah, I've got so many books, but I'll probably do another live a lot earlier in the day. I prefer earlier lives instead of evening ones. But what I will say is, like, not everybody is a book person. Some people don't really enjoy reading books, but I really recommend that it's something that you can get into. The good thing about reading books is that you you, without realizing, you're not aware, but you actually read to yourself in your in a voice of your preference. So when you read to yourself, you read to yourself in a voice that's most relatable to you. And yeah, it's not for everyone. Some people may prefer Kindle, where you listen to a book being read to you. But these are just a few of the books that I would recommend. Or join a library and find out what types of books that you would um, like to read. When I was in school, I used to go into the library and find, like black books, or books that I was especially found relatable. Somehow I would just source these books. To be fair, I was reading quite adult books at a quite young age, so that's why I'm quite big on, make sure you're supervised in what you read um, as a minor, because you can read some triggering stuff. Um, I remember reading books by Judy Blume. I love Judy Blume, Rosa Guy, Alice Walker, Toni Morrison, S.E. Hinton. I loved S.E. Hinton. That Was Then, This Is Now, Outsiders, Rumblefish. Um, who else? Philippa Green, I think. Betty Green, I think Betty Green. Um, so many authors. Choose from a Small Harmonica. Um, Ruby, I believe that was Rosa Guy. Langston Hugh, Langston Hughes. I loved books by Langston Hughes. Um, there was a character called I'll Be Simple or Just Simple or something. Um, yeah, just loads of books, loads and loads of books that you know helped me grow up and you know gave me perspectives that I would never be able to even think of. Yeah, I just love to read. I've always loved reading. Obviously, when you're young, you've got so much time to read, you know, and when you're meant to be sleeping to get ready for school the following day, I'll be there under the covers reading a book. But yeah, I just love reading, and there's so many good authors out there, and yeah. But these are books that I'll be giving away. It just seems such a waste for it to be in storage when I've already read them. Um, I'd want somebody else to read them and enjoy them. A couple of them I'll probably keep for old time's sake, such as Things Fall Apart, David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell, Mere Christianity, Loving God, Charles Colson. There's just some books, that always. I really enjoyed The Painted House and The Sycamore Row by John Grisham. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the review. Um, you know, um, as I said, if there are any books that you'd like to look up yourself, please be mindful that some of these books are triggering. And if you are a minor, you may need to be supervised in regards to reading these books, as some of them do deal with adult and complex themes. Um, Thank you for joining my live. I'll be off now because tomorrow I've got work. I don't know how I'm going to wake up early in the midst of all this holiday cheer and celebration and drinking and getting up late and stuff. But, I'll be at work tomorrow. Thank you for joining my live. I hope you do enjoy the books that I've recommended. And again, if you're a minor, where I stated some of the books can be triggering and have some complex adult themes. So you may need to be supervised, and in general, in regards to triggering books, just be guided in that. But thank you so much for joining my live. I will put a list of the books in the description. So, if you just want to look through, just check out what the books are like. And I'll see you again Probably not until next year, if I'm very honest with you. But yeah, but thank you so much for your support this year. I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed interacting with my supporters, and you know, sorry, due to a recent injury and some personal issues, I haven't really been online, although I do intend to get back into momentum of things. Anyway, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed looking up some of the books that I've mentioned, and I'll see you the next time. Happy holidays, happy new year if I don't see you guys before then. But much love for 2026, and whatever it is that you're going through or whatever you plan to do, I believe it will come to fruition, and I do believe that you are able and capable to learn from your journey so far in what you plan to endeavor to do. Take care. Thank you. Good night. Bye. I think I might have a snack before I go to